You enlist at 19 because there's nothing else, and because you believe in something. That belief is real. It is not naive. You have read about war. You understand that it is ugly and that ugly things are sometimes necessary. You want to be the person who does the necessary things so that other people don't have to. That is genuinely who you are when you raise your right hand. Remember that, because the person you become will try to tell you it was always a lie. And it wasn't. Basic training is what you expected. The breaking down and the building back up. You are good at the physical part, better at the mental part. The drill sergeants notice that you don't rattle. They file that information somewhere useful. After infantry school, you get recruited for Special Forces Assessment and Selection, SFAS. 19 days in the mountains of North Carolina carrying weight. You weren't designed to carry over terrain that wasn't designed for humans. A third of the candidates quit. You don't quit. You pass the Q course. You get your Green Beret. You are 23 years old and you are one of the most trained soldiers on the planet. You believe you are ready for anything. You are not ready for anything. Your first deployment is to Afghanistan, a province no one back home has ever heard of. Your team lives in a mud compound with local militia fighters whose loyalty is calibrated daily by cash payments your team sergeant handles in bundles of bills from a backpack. The mission is village stability operations. You are supposed to build trust, win hearts and minds. You run patrols. You drink tea with elders. You fund a well and a school. You believe in this too. You are still the person who enlisted. The first line you cross is small enough that you barely notice it. A detainee, a man your team grabbed during a raid on a compound where a bomb maker was supposedly operating. The bomb maker wasn't there. This man was. He says he doesn't know anything. He probably doesn't. But your team sergeant has been here for 4 deployments, and you have been here for 4 months, and so you defer. The questioning goes on longer than it should. You stand outside the room. You don't participate, but you don't stop it either. And when the report goes up the chain, you sign your name to a document that describes the questioning as compliant with all applicable regulations. You tell yourself this is how it works. You tell yourself the regulations have room in them for necessary things. Second deployment, Iraq this time. The mission is different. You are hunting, not building, not stabilizing, hunting a network. You move fast every night, hitting targets on a list that updates constantly as intelligence flows in. You are good at this. Frighteningly good. Your team has a rhythm, and the rhythm feels almost like music, something your body understands before your mind processes it. You kick doors and clear rooms, and you stop thinking of what's inside as people before you enter. That is a skill they teach you without teaching it. You develop it because you have to. You develop it, and then it is there all the time, not just in the rooms, and you don't notice that for a while. The first time you do something you know is wrong, you are tired. 26 hours without sleep. A source gives you a name, a location. Intelligence assessed as credible. You hit the target. The man you're looking for isn't there. His brother is. His brother is not a combatant by any definition that would survive daylight, but his brother was in the room and your team was taking fire from the street, and decisions compress into fractions, and you make one. You file a report that describes a hostile engagement. Your team leader looks at the report and signs it without changing a word. Afterward, he tells you that the fog of war is real and that you made the right call given available information. You almost believe him. You believe him enough to sleep. When you get home, you drink too much for 6 months, and then you stop. You don't talk to anyone about the brother. You work out 2 hours every day. You get quiet in ways your family notices and doesn't mention. You re-enlist. Third deployment. You're a team leader now. Your own men. The weight redistributes. It isn't just your choices anymore. It's the choices you authorize. You are running a source network in a country you're not supposed to be operating in, doing things that don't appear in any official record. The sources are paid in cash from a fund that doesn't exist on any budget your government has publicly acknowledged. Some of your sources are good people in difficult positions. Some are criminals who sell you information while also selling it to the other side. You know which ones are which. You keep using the ones who sell both ways because their information is often better, and you have learned to calibrate for the slippage. A source goes missing. His wife contacts your interpreter. The man was taken by a local warlord your government has been publicly designating as a partner in stability operations. You know what taken means? You go to your commanding officer. He tells you the warlord is a strategic relationship and that losing a source is an acceptable loss and that you should document the incident and move on. You document it. You move on. The source's name was Hamid. He had 3 daughters. You know this because you had dinner at his house once, and his youngest daughter showed you a drawing she made of a bird. You never tell anyone that you know this. Knowing it would require you to do something about it, and there is nothing you can do about it. And so you file it in the place where you file things you cannot afford to carry. You are selected for a special mission element. Tier 1. The unit whose name you will never say publicly. This is the highest operational level a soldier can reach. The selection is brutal in the specific way that only the final step of a very long process can be brutal. Not physically. You have already proven the physical part. But psychologically. They are looking for men who can receive an order that has no justification attached and execute it cleanly and return to base and eat dinner and sleep. You pass. Of course you pass. You have been training for this your whole career, including the training no one assigned you. The operations you run now do not appear in any record, not classified records, no records. Targets are delivered verbally. Results are confirmed verbally. The chain of command is a fiction of 2 people. You have stopped thinking about legal frameworks, not because you believe they don't apply, because you have watched them applied selectively enough times that the application tells you nothing about the underlying morality of an act. The law says what the powerful need it to say. You have accepted this the way you accept weather. You are 38 years old when you separate from the army. Your body is a record of every decision made at speed in bad light. Your left knee will never be right. You have tinnitus that you no longer notice except in very quiet rooms, and you avoid very quiet rooms. You have a daughter who is 11 and who calls you dad when she remembers to and by your first name when she forgets. And you don't correct her either time because both feel accurate. A defense contractor recruits you 6 weeks after you separate. The salary is 4 times what the army paid. The work is the same work. You take the job. You tell yourself you are still the same person serving the same purpose. You are not lying. That is the part that should concern you. You have become someone for whom this is the truth, not a justification. The actual truth. In a recruiter's office somewhere, a 19-year-old is signing his name to papers. He believes in something. That belief is real. He wants to be the person who does the necessary things. He has no idea that the necessary things will expand to fill whatever space he makes for them. That the definition of necessary will migrate so slowly, he will never see it move. He will be good at this. The ones who are good at it are the ones who have to carry it the farthest. He will learn. He will become someone he could not have imagined at 19, and somewhere in the distance between those 2 people is a line he will not be able to find, and looking for it will be the work of the rest of his life.